There was a time when you could tell which character in a soap or TV drama was the one with a mental health problem. They'd usually be the strange outsider would appear in an episode, hurt or kill a much-loved character and end up being dragged away to be locked up in a mental institution for life. Our last piece of research showed that for the first time, stories were more positive than stigmatizing. Thankfully, things have moved on hugely in the past 2 decades or so. This is my 7th year running the media advice service at Mind, and even in that time I've noticed a real shift in the way the media approach mental health. This is reflected in many ways. Our Mind Media Awards last year were the biggest and best ever, with Prince Harry attending and presenting an award. Every 2 years we do research around newspaper coverage of mental health topics. Our last piece showed that for the first time, stories were more positive than stigmatizing. Recently, and this is my personal favorite, we took part in a roundtable at the House of Commons with the cast of Hollyoaks, talking about how a recent storyline on the show has helped young people who are self-harming. When schizophrenia and personality disorders are covered, it's usually in connection to violence, even though we know that you're much more likely to be a victim than a perpetrator of violence if you have a mental health problem. Westminster and Hollyoaks are not something you would usually put together, but it was great to see the soap world and politicians coming together to discuss mental health. Channel 4 have just signed the Time to Change pledge as a signal of their commitment to mental health both on and off screen. Sympathy for some, but not all. Unfortunately, not all conditions are treated equally in the media. Mental health problems such as depression, anxiety and bipolar disorder are starting to be treated with sympathy and understanding on screen. However, when schizophrenia and personality disorders are covered, it's usually in connection to violence, even though we know that you're much more likely to be a victim than a perpetrator of violence if you have a mental health problem. In a public opinion poll we did about mental health storylines on TV, 60% of people said that watching a soap or drama featuring a character with a mental health problem had increased their understanding. However, almost the same percentage said that schizophrenia is more negatively portrayed than other mental health problems. Most broadcasters would never dream of running storylines that were considered racist or homophobic, but the same consideration isn't always made when it comes to the portrayal of mental health problems. This is why, while watching ITV's Girlfriends, I was upset to see a character that ticked so many outdated stereotype boxes. Crazy Carol. Carol is shown to behave obsessively towards men, lie to people including the police, and have grandiose ideas about her singing career. So far so good, but then it's revealed that Carol once had a diagnosis of psychosis and has been an inpatient at a mental institution on not 1 but 2 occasions. As we know nothing more about Carol, her mental health problem seems to be the reason for her strange and disturbing behavior. Indeed, anyone that comes into contact with her is clear about what SHE's like, describing her as deranged and calling her Crazy Carol. SHE's very much painted as the other are mad, bad and dangerous, both views that have thankfully been stamped out in most areas of drama. I don't think Girlfriends was intended to be stigmatizing, but it's worrying that Carol's story was probably never thought of as a mental health storyline. The episode culminates in Carol letting herself into one of the main characters' homes, brandishing a knife. SHE's clearly planning to stab the woman in her bed, but on the way kills Paul Florence the cat, a very gruesome scene that provoked outrage on Twitter. Again, people on social media were quick to judge the character, many using the term psycho. I don't think Girlfriends was intended to be stigmatizing, but it's worrying that Carol's story was probably never thought of as a mental health storyline. A little sensitivity can make a huge difference. Most broadcasters would never dream of running storylines that were considered racist or homophobic, but the same consideration isn't always made when it comes to the portrayal of mental health problems. ITV have made some fantastic drama about mental health, including Cold Feet, which won Best Drama at our Media Awards last year. The depiction of the character Pete struggling with depression was written with warmth and compassion and helped to show viewers that mental health is not something to be feared or shunned, but something to be talked about and supported. My work is to ensure that program makers see how a mental health storyline could be damaging to public attitudes, or how when done well, it can prompt help seeking and raise awareness for the better. We worked on around 70 storylines last year, mostly behind the scenes, checking scripts and involving people with lived experience to ensure that stories were realistic and sensitive. Thankfully, the majority of mental health storylines we work on turn out to be brilliant. It's just a shame that some slip through the net and risk having a negative impact on the attitudes of TV viewers. Jenny Regan is the senior media advisor for Mind.